This week, have you ever wondered what happens during a HECM counseling session? Well, we're going to answer that question with our special guest, Greg Smalls with Consumer Education Services Incorporated, or HECM.
Building relationships is the way Mutual of Omaha has grown into one of the leading financial services companies in the world. Our reverse mortgage wholesale division is proud to carry on this 100-plus year tradition. To your borrowers, a reverse mortgage is more than a transaction. It's a promise of a better, more stress-free life. Our goal is to provide you, our valued client, with the best service and support possible so you can focus on helping your borrowers achieve the retirement of their dreams.
Welcome back to the Industry Leader Update. So good to have you with us. Just what happens during a HECM counseling session? It's a question that often crosses the minds of reverse mortgage professionals, and I've often wondered the same myself. So this week we have a special guest with us, Greg Smalls. He is a Director of Housing for the Consumer Education Services Incorporated, or HECM, a HECM counseling agency. Greg, thank you so much for joining us, sir.
Shannon, thank you for having me.
It was a pleasure to meet you in Nashville during NORMLA's annual meeting, and we had a chance to chat, which I really enjoyed. And by the way, to our viewing audience, Greg is a Army veteran, and he served, I think you named the number of years, hours, and days.
Right. I served faithfully for 20 years, 2 months, 24 days, and 10 hours. I added the 10 hours because it was 10 o'clock when I was walking out of the facility with my discharge papers.
So the first question that comes to mind, and I alluded to it in our introduction, is what exactly occurs or happens during a HECM counseling session? Can you describe that for us briefly?
Okay, so what we do initially is we do an intake. We take the demographical information, we review the personal data, review the home information for accuracy. We do a budget analysis. So we actually do budget counseling for the client. Obviously, we go over our disclosures and privacy agreement. If they have the package from the lender, we'll compare the package just to make sure our numbers match what the lenders have. And then during the course of the counseling, we will ask the homeowner 10 questions, but it's incorporated in the counseling, and they must pass at least 5 of the 10 questions. But we don't say, okay, here's question number 1. We ask it during the counseling session.
And how many counseling sessions is your agency doing each week?
We do on average between 10 and 15 sessions a week. We expect that to increase because we last month just have we have 2 individuals that have passed their HECM exam, and one of them speaks Spanish. So we project an increase in the number of counseling sessions that we will be able to offer.
Have you heard just some feedback as to how long a reverse mortgage originator is telling the homeowner the session should last? What are some of those lengths of time that you've heard?
I've done some research with my team, and there's no confusion. During the intake process, we let the client know that it's going to be at least an hour or more. So they know during the intake, and then they're told again at the start of the counseling session. So we really have had no issues with that, Shannon. With the expectation that, I was told it was only going to be 15 minutes. We have an agency, we haven't had no issues with that.
That's good to hear. I'm relieved, actually. So speaking of concerns, what is the primary concern, and if there was a thread that ran through your HECM counseling sessions, not so much maybe about the reverse mortgage, maybe it is, but what are some of the concerns that you hear repeatedly from the homeowners that you're counseling for a HECM?
Will I lose my home? So we really emphasize that you get to keep the home. It's called DSM, until you die, sell, or move. So what we do is we'll ask the client, okay, currently in your home, how will you lose your home, so to speak? Oh, okay. If I, a lot of times they don't want to say die. So if I pass away, or if I sell, or if I move. So it's the same concept. If you die, sell, or move, then you will lose your home. But that's the biggest that's the biggest area of confusion and concern, rather, that the clients have. Will they lose the home? So we have to emphasize that they still own the home until you die, sell, or move. And also, you are still responsible for the taxes, insurance, maintenance, and HOA fees if you have any. Because now at this point, you're not going to have a mortgage. So we emphasize that.
Has anyone been surprised that they have to continue paying property taxes or homeowners insurance or HOA fees?
No, but sometimes they think that the loan company is now going to pay that. And we have to explain to them that that's not the case unless you have set aside.
Absolutely. Have you found that many people assume the lender might be paying those charges because they've been used to having an escrow account as part of a traditional mortgage?
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So that's why we emphasize that you still own the home. And that's one of our questions. Okay, Mr. Smith, when you get a reverse mortgage, who owns the home? And if they say the lender, then we have to get deep into the counseling, so to speak, to make sure that they understand that they still own the home and they're still responsible for the taxes, insurance, and maintenance and HOA fees.
It's a relatively recent development for the home equity conversion mortgage, the provisions for the non-borrowing spouse, and they've really shored that up. I'm glad that FHA and HUD really have brought those consumer protections in. Are your agents, are your counselors covering what happens in the case of you have a surviving non-borrowing spouse?
Unfortunately, if your husband or your wife or your loved one pass, you're not going to be able to have access to any of the funds. The funds are just for that specific borrower. So you might want to strategize to do some pre-draws so there'll be some money available.
Absolutely, and I could see in a case where you have the primary borrower maybe with a terminal illness and it's pretty clear they're not going to be with them very much longer, they could take some withdrawals from the HECM line of credit, as we call it, and provide for their non-borrowing spouse to kind of get them over that period of time. We have these HECM comparisons, right? So we're comparing different loan options, and we're speaking specifically about the HECM today. So you have different margins. You could have a fixed rate. You could have an annual, monthly adjustable. Does the counselor have access to the same documents that the homeowner has received?
Sometimes we do, and sometimes we don't. We'll ask for that IBIS. We'll ask for the code to see if the client has it, and if they have it, we'll use those numbers. If they don't, we'll use our numbers to keep the counseling session going.
Excellent. And it just came across the newswire this week that HUD is planning to increase funding for HECM counseling. Just wanted to get your thoughts on that. Housing counseling, correction.
That's great.
Housing
That's great,
counseling.
because it is a service that's needed. And we're helping people out in the community. And I've seen where individuals worked hard all their lives, and they receive $800 in Social Security, and the children do not want to come back to a small town USA. And the homeowner just wants to live their elder years in comfort. And it might be that they just want to get repairs on the home. It might be that they need an extra $200 or $300 a month to make ends meet. And the reverse mortgage product is a good fit for them.
So in closing, one question, and I think this should be a good takeaway for our audience. What is one thing or maybe two that each reverse mortgage professional listening today can do to best prepare their potential borrower for the HECM counseling session?
To inform their client that there's going to be budget counseling done. So the counseling session would be smoother if they already know what their monthly expenses are. So we are required to do budget counseling and give them some recommendations on where they can save in the area of their budget, and also to give the counselor or the intake person the legal name for their name and anybody else that's going to be on the loan, and the correct address of the home, because that's what's going to go on the certificate. And so this way it'll prevent corrections that need to be made, and slow the process of obviously the loan being approved. And one more thing, to make sure that everybody, I know you just said one, that if say it's two individuals, everybody that's going to be on the loan need to be on the counseling session. So it can be done one time compared to now you have to do it another counseling session. Say it was a husband and wife example, and then the wife was there, but the husband wasn't. Now we have to turn around and do another session for the husband.
Do you ever have, let's say, adult children who may be living in the home join the session as well, so they're more informed?
Yes, we welcome that. We welcome that. Everyone, whoever wants to be involved, and that's better, because then they hear it straight from us, decreases the confusion on what the expectation, what happens, unfortunately, when their loved one dies.
Well, Mr. Smalls, thank you so much for sharing your insights as a HECM counseling and housing counseling professional, and we really appreciate it. I know our audience does. Folks, be sure to share this episode and the insights that Greg shared. You can do that on your LinkedIn network, and I know your fellow mortgage professionals will appreciate it. Don't forget, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, and be sure to hit that like button. It helps us improve our results in the algorithm with YouTube, and subscribe. And each and every week, we bring you the latest reverse mortgage news. You can get it now both in audio and video. That's HECM World Weekly. You can find us on YouTube, also on Apple Music, iTunes, and Spotify, and Podbean. Thanks again for joining us, and be sure to return next week for more reverse mortgage news, commentary, and analysis you'll only find here at HECM World. Have a great week.